Daily kindness to a beggar shocks all his revealing words will haunt you forever. On a cold, frosty morning in downtown Denver, a bustling crowd streamed through the streets, but one figure stood out among the rush. A beggar, his scruffy beard flecked with white, cradled an old guitar, its wooden body battered from years of being ignored. The soft strum of haunting chords slipped through the clamor, wrapping itself around the passers-by like a ghostly whisper. It was his daily routine, a polite habit, a peculiar scene for the morning rush. But today felt different, charged with an invisible force, as if the very air buzzed with unspoken tension. People hurried by, their eyes glued to screens, their hearts locked away. But one woman, Claire, stopped. A shiver raced down her spine as his deep-set eyes locked onto hers. It was a gaze that seemed to pierce through her very soul, begging for something more than spare change. As she reached into her pocket, the curious crowd began to gather, a few hesitant smiles exchanged, their intrigue growing. Something about this encounter felt pivotal, like watching the first spark before a wildfire ignites. "Thank you," he rasped, his voice rough yet strangely melodic, "but what I need is not money, it's a story." The words hung heavy in the air, catching everyone off guard. The crowd leaned in closer, anticipation crackling like the electric hum of a thunderstorm. He pointed to the sky, his bony finger trembling. "The old oak over there, it was planted by a soldier who lost everything. He still comes to talk to me. Come, listen." A murmur swept through the cluster of listeners. A story? A lost soldier? Curiosity washed over them like a tide, washing away the morning rush and replacing it with a swirling whirlpool of wonder and confusion. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Now, let us dive back. Without warning, a chilling wind swept through, chilling Claire to the bone as the stranger's words echoed in her mind. She felt a lump in her throat, something about him was so raw, so haunting. As he began to speak about the soldier, with each word he uttered, the eyes of the crowd widened, pulling them deeper into the life he painted. Yet, amidst the richness of his tale, a dark shadow loomed just out of view, like something waiting to emerge at the most unexpected moment. What did this beggar know? And where was the soldier now? Would Claire dare to follow where curiosity led her, or would she become just another face in the stream of indifference? With each heartbeat, the unanswered questions wrapped around her like a shroud, tantalizing her with the promise of secrets that could either soothe or destroy. The crowd shifted, breath held in silent anticipation. Claire's heart raced as the beggar's voice dropped, rich with emotion. This soldier, he was my friend. Lost in the battlefield, he carried the pain of his past like a ghost. The strum of his guitar echoed his words, a sorrowful melody weaving through the air. Each note felt like a reminder of lives intertwined, revealing layers of grief and resilience hidden beneath the mundane rush of city life. Claire leaned in, drawn to his presence. "What happened to him?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The beggar's gaze momentarily drifted away, lost in a memory. Before he answered, he returned, but a piece of him never came back. He sought solace beneath that oak, talking to the wind, wrestling with shadows of his lost comrades. Gasps fluttered through the crowd, faces mirrored both sorrow and fascination. Yet, Claire felt something deeper, a gnawing sense of urgency. This soldier's pain felt palpable, echoed within her own unspoken struggles. Who was he? What stories was he hiding? She gripped her purse, wrestling with a sudden surge of empathy. The guitar fell silent. "Listen closely," the beggar urged. "The soldier's fate is more than a mere tale. It ties back to a secret buried deep in our history, a secret that binds us all." A shiver coursed through Claire. The air thickened, crackling with an energy that felt electric, unsettling. Others shifted, eyes darting as if they sensed it too. Could it be true? Did the soldier's story hold the key to something larger? Before the beggar could continue, a figure appeared at the back of the crowd, a man in a dark coat, his shadow looming large, obscuring the morning light. The crowd parted reluctantly, apprehension coursing through them. The man's eyes narrowed as he fixed his gaze on the beggar, filled with a mix of contempt and something darker. A collective shudder rippled through the gathered listeners. "You shouldn't be telling these stories," the newcomer growled, his voice a low rumble. "The last thing this city needs is more ghosts haunting its streets." The tension escalated, silence fell like a heavy curtain. Whispers turned into gasps, and Claire's heart raced. An invisible line had been drawn, and she couldn't tell which side she was on. "What do you mean?" Claire challenged, stepping forward, clutching onto her instincts. She felt a need to defend the beggar, to shield him from whatever threat loomed over him. What could possibly be wrong with sharing the truth? The man's expression twisted into a smirk, but his eyes glinted with menace. "Some truths are better left buried," he warned, taking a step closer. The beggar, unfazed, lifted his chin. "And yet, some truths are meant to be heard. The soldier's story matters, but so do the lives intertwined with it." His voice trembled, fueled by passion and defiance. The crowd held its breath, unsure of which way the tide would turn. At that moment, Claire felt a storm brewing within her, a mix of fear and determination. Surely she couldn't stand by as a silent witness. The soldier's story, the beggar's plea, it all felt pivotal, like history hung in the balance, and just as the tension peaked, the air grew heavy, shadows stretching ominously as if warning of an impending storm. Claire's gaze darted back to the dark-coated man. He was watching her now, as if he knew something she didn't, an unsettling grin spreading across his face. "What happens next?" "You'll find the answers soon enough," he whispered, before slipping into the crowd, leaving only confusion in his wake. Heart pounding, Claire turned back to the beggar, desperate for direction, but he was already staring into the distance, his eyes clouded with memories. The questions in her mind multiplied. What secret lay hidden beneath the oak tree? Who truly was the soldier? And what did the man in the coat know that could change everything? With a rush of adrenaline, Claire stepped forward. "I need to know more. Where do we find him?" But the beggar only smiled sadly. "Sometimes, we must seek the truth in the face of darkness. Your journey is just beginning." And so it was, as she felt the weight of purpose settle on her shoulders. The chase for answers had begun, and who knew what revelations awaited her in the shadows? The crowd slowly began to disperse, but Claire stood rooted to the spot, wrestling with her thoughts. Voices buzzed around her, but their words were a blur. She kept glancing back at the beggar, who seemed lost in his memories, the gentle strum of his guitar growing quiet. She felt an insistent tug in her chest, as if she were meant to do something more than just listen. "Tell me about him," she urged, forcing her voice to break through the noise. "The soldier. Please." The beggar's gaze shifted back to her, flickering with a spark of recognition. He paused as if weighing her sincerity. "All stories are tangled with pain and hope, but his is laced with a darkness that breathes even now." Claire's palms grew clammy. "What do you mean?" "He lives still, but he walks a fine line. He carries a burden, and until it is set free, the ghosts will haunt him and perhaps, haunt you." The sorrow etched on his face deepened, eyes glistening with unshed tears. To understand him is to understand the past. But beware, some know better than to seek the truth. A chill ran down Claire's spine. The shadows danced eerily, and the thought of not only the soldier but the mysterious man in the coat circled her. She sensed hidden danger that could engulf her. "Where do I find him?" she pressed, her determination hardening. "Beneath the old oak," he replied, his voice now barely above a whisper. "But it's not merely the tree you should seek. For in its roots lies the truth about the war that never ended for him." Determined, Claire nodded, her heart racing. "I'll go there." "Be cautious," the beggar warned, a shadow of fear crossing his face. There are forces that do not want the past to be disturbed. People who will do anything to stop you. Trust your instincts, but remember sometimes the truth comes at a cost. Feeling both exhilarated and terrified, Claire turned away. She had to act before fear could anchor her. She knew the streets well enough. She could find the oak tree. The sunlight dimmed as she surged through the crowd, heart pounding with urgency. Each step felt heavier than the last, the air thick with unresolved histories. As she approached the park, a sense of foreboding cloaked her. A twisted anticipation pulled her forward. What would she uncover? Would it be a harrowing truth or a danger she wasn't prepared to face? The oak stood tall and solitary, branches heavy and twisted like the stories bound within them. Claire hesitated, her breath hitching. As she reached out to touch the rough bark, a presence stirred in the shadows nearby. Suddenly, the man in the dark coat emerged from behind the tree, his smirk widening as if he had anticipated her arrival. "I see you're determined," he said, voice smooth like silk but with an edge that made her shiver. "But you're digging in a graveyard that shouldn't be disturbed. Who are you?" Claire demanded, the bravado of her earlier determination suddenly wavering. "I'm just a guardian of the old stories," he replied, a glint of something sinister in his eyes. "But it seems you're more curious than cautious. What will you do when you discover the truth? You might wish you hadn't." Claire's heart thundered as fear mingled with her resolve. The edges of her purpose blurred into uncertainty. "I won't back down," she declared, her voice steadier than she felt. "You may not have a choice," he responded ominously. "The past always finds a way of speaking." He stepped back into the shadows, leaving her alone beneath the sprawling oak. The world around her suddenly felt thick and suffocating, weighed down by the echoes of untold stories. As she stood there, clutching a knot in her stomach, a feeling whispered just beyond her grasp, a warning, an invitation. What lay buried beneath this powerful tree? And what price would she pay to coax the truth into the light? Claire closed her eyes, breath hitching as uncertainty swirled around her. She took a deep, shuddering breath. "I need to know," she murmured, feeling the roots of destiny tugging at her soul. But little did she know, the very act of seeking could awaken something darker than she ever expected. Claire's fingers brushed the gnarled bark of the oak tree, the texture rough and unyielding under her touch. A pulse of energy raced through her, both electrifying and terrifying. The air thickened around her, particles of dust dancing in the fading light like phantoms teasing her curiosity. Each breath drew her deeper into the unknown, where danger lurked just out of sight. A rustle in the underbrush snapped her from her reverie. She spun around, heart racing. The shadows seemed to close in, stretching across the ground like dark tendrils reaching for her. "Is anyone there?" she called out, her voice trembling slightly. The only response was the whispering wind, stealing her nerves. She turned back to the tree. "The truth," she murmured, recalling the beggar's words. With newfound determination, she knelt on the ground, her palms pressing into the cool earth surrounding the roots. The soldier, the war, the ghosts, they all awaited her, hidden within this ancient guardian. As she dug her fingers into the soil, the earth felt oddly warm, contrasting with the chill creeping up her spine. She heard it now, a faint murmur, like a voice just beyond comprehension. Soul-stirring and sorrowful, it dripped with memories begging to be unearthed. "Help me," the voice seemed to ask, wrapping its ethereal fingers around her heart. "Help us." With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Claire intensified her efforts. The soil gave way under her hands, revealing dark, rich dirt and a glint of something metallic. Breath hitching, she unearthed a small, rusted locket, a grim piece of jewelry trapped in the past. Clutching it tightly, Claire paused, a wave of nausea crashing over her. What if it held a crucial piece of history? What if it was a key to the soldier's torment? She grappled with her thoughts just as a low growl echoed behind her. Fear shot through her as she whirled around, ready for a confrontation, but it was the man in the dark coat again, stepping from the shadows, striding with an unsettling calm. "You shouldn't have touched that," he said, an unsettling smile playing on his lips. The past has a way of retaliating against those who pry too deeply. What do you want from me? Claire shot back, anger mixing with fear. She held the locket tighter, feeling the cold metal bite into her palm. Why are you here? I'm just a spectator, but you're the one making a choice. His gaze flickered to the locket, eyes narrowing. What you hold could change everything if you dare to discover the truth. His words were like a dark promise, echoing in her mind. The weight of the locket seemed to grow, her hands trembling. Was this truly a gateway to the soldier's past, or was it a trap set by the man in front of her? What truth? Claire asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Anguish rippled through her. What price? Ah, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? He replied, his tone silk smooth, laced with malice. Some truths set you free, while others shackle you to the ghostly echoes of the past. Are you willing to risk everything to find out which kind you'll uncover? Faced with his unsettling challenge, Claire's heart raced. She felt the pull of the locket and the thrill of uncovering something forbidden. But in the back of her mind, a warning flickered like a dying ember. The breeze whispered through the oak's branches, a subtle reminder that time was against her. The locket pulsed in her hand, the shadows painted across her face. Isn't it worth the risk? She challenged, meeting his gaze with fierce resolve. What you seek may not be what you want, he replied, a sinister grin spreading. His figure began to blend into the shadows, a specter retreating. But, I suppose we shall see. As his presence faded, Claire realized she was alone once more, the locket heavy in her grasp, the roots beneath her whispering secrets. Her heart thundered with a mix of fear and determination. Could she decode the tangled stories, wrestle with the ghosts, and truly confront whatever lurked in the depths of her search? The answer pulsed in her chest like a drumbeat, and Claire knew the path ahead was fraught with peril. She had crossed a threshold, and she felt the weight of the past pressing down on her. What lurked in her future, she could not yet see, but the game was afoot, and now, she had no choice but to play. What shadows awaited her next? And would the truth she sought be the salvation she hoped for, or a curse that would bind her forever? The air felt heavier now, gnawing at Claire's senses as she clutched the locket. A distant thunder echoed, mingling with the rustling leaves, an ominous chorus that sent ripples of anxiety through her. Every second stretched, the shadows creeping closer, mocking her solitude. She couldn't shake the feeling that the locket was more than a trinket. It felt alive in her hand, pulsing with a demand she could not fully grasp. Tentatively, she turned back to the oak, its gnarled roots twisting like the memories she sought to untangle. She brushed the locket against the bark, half expecting it to respond in kind. The air around her shimmered, a flicker of something hidden just beneath the surface. Claire's heart raced, intuition screaming that she must press on even as fear snaked through her limbs. Help me, the quiet plea echoed again, reverberating deep within her. It wasn't just a voice, it was a connection, a cry layered with despair. She sank to her knees, squeezing the locket tightly, trying to draw strength from its cold weight. The murmuring around her rose, a haunting melody that filled her mind with fragments of loss, love, and longing. What had happened here? Who had lost what? In a moment of reckless bravery, she opened the locket. A faded photograph slipped into her palm, its edges frayed and worn, hinting at a history begging for recognition. Two faces stared back at her, young, happy, yet shadowed by the weight of unspoken sorrow. A sense of familiarity flooded her, waking something in her that she thought long buried. Claire, the voice whispered again, almost like a hand reaching out. Peering closer, she noticed something etched on the inside of the locket, a name barely legible, Thomas. Thomas, she breathed, names from her past echoing in the depths of her mind. Who are you? Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled, a violent shudder that sent shivers down her spine. The oak itself seemed to pulse with energy, the air electric and alive. Claire scrambled back, heart racing even faster. The shadows danced wildly now, coalescing into forms that threatened to eclipse her view of the world. No longer just specters, they became figures, faint outlines that whispered in moving shadows. What were they? Warnings or watchers? She couldn't tell. Their presence fielded a bombardment of emotions that crashed over her like waves, grief, anger, betrayal, each one more overwhelming than the last. "Leave!" she screamed, her voice echoing across the clearing. "What do you want?" But her words were swallowed by the darkness, leaving only an oppressive silence that stretched on. A chill settled in, wrapping around her bones. The man in the dark coat's unsettling grin resurfaced in her mind, filling her with a sense of foreboding. She could almost hear him taunting her. "What you seek may not be what you want." With renewed determination, Claire rose, shaking off the unease. "I have to find Thomas," she resolved, the echo of the name swirling like a mantra in her mind. Before she could gather her thoughts, a snapping sound crystallized the air around her. A dark figure cloaked in shadows stepped forward, emerging from the depths, eyes gleaming with a predatory glimmer. "Looking for someone?" it hissed, voice cold and menacing, reverberating against the trees and cutting through Claire's resolve like glass. The ground felt unsteady beneath her again, and panic clawed at her throat. The locket dangled loosely in her hand. It could be her key, or it could bind her to these dark shadows forever. With a surge of instinct, she took a step back. "What do you want?" Claire demanded, hoping against hope for an answer that wouldn't fill her with dread. The figure, shrouded in darkness, grinned wider, each tooth glinting in the eerie twilight. "What you're searching for might destroy you, but I could provide something more valuable than the truth. Something very, very tempting," it whispered enticingly, each word dripping with malice. Claire's heart raced as uncertainty clawed at her insides. She was standing on the precipice, with choices looming like shadows overhead. What would she risk? What would she lose? And did she really want to know the truth about Thomas? The echoes of her choices loomed larger than the shadows creeping closer, eclipsing every thought. What if the truth was the most dangerous secret of all? Claire's breath quickened, her chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. The figure loomed larger, the shadows swirling around it as if alive, dancing in an electrified frenzy. Every instinct screamed for her to run, to escape the malevolence that dripped from the figure's words. Yet, the lure of the truth held her steady, binding her to the spot like a spell. "What do you mean?" she managed, her voice trembling but defiant. "What can you offer me?" The shadowed being chuckled, a sound twisted and dark that made her skin crawl. "Answers, my dear. Answers to questions you don't even know to ask." Its eyes sparkled like cold stars, deep and endless, drawing her in temptation mingled with terror. Claire hesitated. "Why would you help me?" "Help?" it asked, feigning innocence. "I have no interest in helping you. But the imbalance of your journey amuses me. You seek Thomas, and you're willing to risk everything to find him. How delightful watching mortals dance through the fires of their own making." An uneasy knot twisted in her stomach. "Stop playing games. Just tell me what you want." The figure stepped closer, the shadows trembling around it. With each step, the air grew colder, the trees twisting and shrieking as if in agony. "Your heart is heavy, Claire. You carry more than just the weight of your quest. You carry secrets, pain, loss. And I can relieve you of those burdens." The temptation was real, tangible even. She wanted to believe that shedding the weight would free her. But could she trust this creature? "Why would I want your help?" She squared her shoulders, defiance rising anew. "Because, sweet Claire, sometimes to learn the truth, one must indulge in darkness." It waved a hand, and her locket grew warm against her skin. The slightest glow pulsed from it, illuminating the area around her, casting long, warped shadows as if heralding both salvation and doom. "Thomas needs you," the figure intoned. "But first, you need to face what you fear most. Only then will you uncover the truth you seek." The word struck her with full force, resonating deep within. She thought of Thomas, his laughter, his kindness, a spiral of memories tangled with grief and fading hope. Would the truth save him or bury her deeper into despair? "What do I have to do?" Claire whispered, her voice barely a sound against the ominous backdrop of the trees. She felt like a marionette on strings, every fiber in her body urging her to retreat yet drawn forward. Follow the darkness, it urged. Let it guide you but tread lightly. For every truth revealed often paints in shades of betrayal. With that, the figure vanished, melting into the shadows, leaving nothing but chilled air and confusion in its wake. Claire stood trembling, questions spiraling. What had she just agreed to? The locket pulsed in her hand again, feeling almost like a heartbeat. Did it truly hold the answers, or was it another snare in this web of deception? Steeling herself, she determined to face whatever came next. With each step into the unknown, the air thickened, suffocating her senses. Time fell away, and the world around her blurred, a new path stretching before her, shrouded in uncertainty. Then, suddenly, the ground shook beneath her. A haunting wail erupted from the oak, reverberating through her bones, shaking loose buried fears and ancient truths. Claire staggered back, her heart pounding in a frantic rhythm against her ribcage. What had she summoned? As the sound echoed in the air, she realized the lessons of the past might come crashing down, demanding her attention. Shadows stirred, shapes forming from the darkness she knew she had to embrace. Claire, a familiar voice drifted through the chaos, soft yet powerful. Help me. Determined yet frightened, she took a step forward into the darkened woods, drawn by the whispered pleas of those lost. What awaited her in the depths of these shadows? And were the truths she sought worth the price she might pay? The darkness thickened like a torrent as Claire moved deeper into the heart of the forest. Each step felt like breaking the surface of a deep pool, a struggle against the weight of what lay beneath. The trees twisted and groaned, their branches clawing at the night sky, creating a canopy that felt more like a prison than a passage. Help me. The voice echoed again, a plea tangled with desperation. It sent tremors through Claire, her skin prickling with fear. There was something unnervingly familiar about it, something she desperately hoped to find but knew might only bring more heartache. Narrowing her focus, she pressed on, the pulse of her locket guiding her like a beacon. A faint glow shimmered ahead, trembling like the flicker of a candle. Was it hope, or another trick? Doubt pooled behind her eyes, yet resolve pulled her forward, compelling her to confront whatever lay ahead. Suddenly, the trees parted to reveal a small clearing, cloaked in eeriness. The air crackled, vibrating with the energies of ancient secrets. Claire stopped dead, her breath hitching. In the center of the clearing, bound by gnarled roots and brambles, was a figure, the unmistakable silhouette of Thomas. Thomas! She cried, the name escaping her lips like a shard of glass. His eyes flickered open, revealing a depth of pain that sent a chill sliding down her spine. Claire, he whispered, desperately raspy. You shouldn't have come. It's not safe, not here. A wave of relief rushed through her, dissolving the paralyzing fear, yet it was quickly replaced by a surge of anger. What do you mean it's not safe? I thought I could save you. By following the darkness? His voice trembled as he struggled against the vines, each movement seeming to sap his strength. You have no idea what you're entangled in. The more you seek answers, the deeper you sink. The shadows around her flickered ominously as if relishing his words. Claire felt a cold grip tighten around her heart. What happened to you? Who did this? Not who, what, Thomas corrected, pain apparent in the quickening of his breath. Something awakened when you stepped into this place, something that thrives on the fear of the lost. As if summoned by his words, the air thickened, shadows converging like hungry wolves. Claire's instincts screamed for her to flee, yet her feet remained rooted. Thomas was here. His presence ignited something deep within her, a flicker of hope wrapped in a shroud of dread. Then we have to get out of here, she urged, desperation clawing at her throat. She rushed forward, reaching for him. I can help you. No. He shouted. Listen to me. The truth is a double-edged sword. The moment you try to save me, you might doom us both. The vine-strewn ground trembled again, a low growl echoing in the void. Whispers danced around her, circling like vultures over carrion. Claire felt the oppressive weight of unseen eyes watching, judging, waiting for her to falter. "I want to let you down again," she said, voice cracking with a tumult of emotions, each word a raw pledge woven from guilt and strength. A flash of something, was it hope or despair, crossed Thomas's features. "Then listen. The entity here, it's manipulating your quest. It feeds on your hurt, Claire. It wants you to sacrifice everything to bring me back." The shadows recoiled, as if struck by his words, shuddering ominously as the tension in the air thickened. Claire's breath caught in her throat. She had to choose. What was real? What was merely a web of deceit spun by the darkness? "Claire." His voice broke through. "Decide now. The truth lies just beyond, but every sacrifice demands a toll." The energy pulsed anew around her, tugging, urging her to delve deeper, promising answers that could change everything or destroy them both, and as the night closed in, Claire felt the weight of the shadows closing around her. Would revealing the truth set them free or unleash a darkness from which they could never return? The wind howled through the clearing, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and despair. Claire's heart raced, each thud matching the unsettling rhythm of the shadows that swirled around her. Her hands trembled, she couldn't let fear dictate her actions. "Thomas!" she called, gripping the pulse of her locket tighter, as if it could anchor her to reality. "You're not beyond reach. I won't abandon you. Think, Claire." He rasped, his voice laced with urgency. "Every moment you linger here feeds their hunger. The entity is drawing closer. It knows what you want and it will twist that into something dreadful if you let it." Claire could feel the shadows swirling, whispering seductive promises that clashed with her resolve. Images flashed, Thomas smiling, laughing, the two of them wrapped in warmth and light. And now he was trapped, tangled in darkness. She couldn't let those moments slip away, couldn't let this be their end. "Tell me what to do." The words burst from her lips, desperate and raw. "Confront the truth. It will guide you, but beware, the truth is fickle." Thomas looked pained, his features hardening under the strain of his bindings. "You have to break the cycle, Claire. Release me from this and yourself from the shadows." Her breath quickened as she scanned the clearing. The pulse of her locket grew stronger, a beacon in the oppressive dark. It felt as if a pathway was revealing itself, illuminated by an unseen light just for her. "Step into the circle," Thomas instructed, his eyes glimmering with a mix of fear and hope. "That's where the heart of the truth lies." She hesitated, her gut twisting as the shadows seemed to laugh, to taunt. But the flicker of life inside Thomas drove her onward. Mustering her courage, she stepped forward, into the circle of soft luminescence. The moment her foot crossed the threshold, a surge of energy erupted, pushing back against the darkness with vibrant determination. A cacophony of whispers erupted. Her name echoed off the bark, curling into her ears like smoke. "Claire, back away, it's a trap." But she held her ground. The light pulsed in response to her resolve, wrapping around her like a silken thread. The shadows writhed angrily, striking out whips of darkness aimed straight for her, but they recoiled upon hitting the brilliance. "Thomas!" she shouted again, "what do I do now?" "Focus on the truth of your heart," he urged, his voice growing fainter as the shadows coiled tighter, desperate to consume her. Remember our bond, that is your strength." The clearing shook with rage. Visions began to swirl around her, moments from their past, joyous and heart-wrenching, days spent dancing in the sun, secrets shared in the depths of night. Each memory grounded her, wrapped around her heart like chains of resilience, reminding her of the love they had forged against all odds. As the shadows thickened, morphing into grotesque forms, Claire steeled herself. "I refuse to let darkness win," she declared, raising the locket high. Light exploded from its core, blazing against the oncoming tide of despair. A visceral roar erupted from the shadows, and Claire felt the force push against her, testing her will. "This is just the beginning." A voice hissed from the depths, grotesque and guttural, mingling, seeming to ripple through the very fabric of the forest. The ground trembled beneath her feet as the darkness lunged once more, and Claire braced, feeling the weight of her choices bearing down upon her. Would she unravel the truth to free Thomas, or would her choice birth a darkness that could consume them both? And as the very air around her crackled with uncertainty, Claire sensed a shift. A promise of revelation hung in the air, fragile yet potent. What price would she pay to save the one she loved? The earth pulsed beneath her feet, a heartbeat echoing ominously in the silence. Claire's grip tightened around the locket, its warmth flooding her with a mix of determination and dread. She could almost hear the shadows whispering, taunting her with visions of despair. They were alive, and they were hungry. The light from the locket intensified, swirling like a beacon, and the grotesque figures screamed in fury, their forms writhing and dense. Claire's heart raced. "I won't let you take him," she screamed, her voice slicing through the chaotic whispers, propelling her resolve forward, but the shadows were relentless. Their voices twisted into a dark symphony, echoing doubts and fears. "You think you can save him? You think love is enough?" They coiled around her, pressing inwards, squeezing the breath from her chest. She fought against their grip, recalling Thomas's face, his smile bright against the backdrop of the night, and the warmth of their shared laughter. "I won't give up," she shouted again, her voice defiant. With each syllable, the locket pulsed brighter, illuminating the dark and revealing fragments of truth tangled within the chaos. Faces of those lost, people who'd once loved and grieved, flashed before her eyes. Claire gasped as their stories unfolded, tales of fear, regret, and betrayal flooding her mind. "Claire, focus." Thomas's voice broke through the tempest, more urgent than ever. "You have to confront their truth, what they fear." Confronting the shadows meant stepping closer to the edge of despair. A shiver raced down her spine. "I can't. What if it consumes me?" Her heart faltered, but as she looked at Thomas, she saw his unwavering belief shimmer through the gloom. If she let fear win, it would take not only him but her as well. Summoning every ounce of courage, Claire focused on the memories entwined with the darkness. She thought of joy, of shared moments beneath the stars, of laughter that echoed in the still night. The warmth blossomed within her like a flame fighting a cold wind. But then, a monumental roar shattered the moment, a forceful explosion of darkness that almost knocked her off her feet. "Your bond is but a flicker." The voice snarled, deep and resonant, the very essence of despair. "You will lose him, you will lose yourself." Undeterred, Claire raised the locket higher, its brilliance erupting in a shower of light, pushing back against the shadows that shrieked, recoiling as they were scorched. "I will not let you twist our love into something vile," she declared, finding her voice amidst the chaos. In that moment of clarity, a startling vision swung into view. It left her breathless, a memory, one that hadn't belonged to her. A fractured moment, barely remembered but deeply felt, drenched in sorrow. She saw Thomas not just as her love but surrounded by grief, darkness looming as he faced a loss she'd never known. The shadows had taken something from him, and now they sought to take her. "We're in this together," she whispered, realizing the truth of their bond was deeper than the shadows could comprehend, but before she could gather her thoughts, the shadows surged forward, escalating their assault, and she felt the world tremble around her. The clearing began to disappear as the void attempted to consume her, a ravenous predator ready to pounce. Just as despair threatened to pull her under, a blinding light emanated from the locket, and Claire felt a tether solidify, an undeniable connection linking her heart to Thomas. She took a breath, realizing that the truth wasn't just a weapon, it was her salvation. "Give me strength," she cried, a wild urgency in her voice as the very fabric of reality shifted, heartbeats rising to a fever pitch. As the light melted into the darkness and rose, Claire plunged into the void, grasping for Thomas, desperate to break the chains binding them both. The shadows shrieked in fury, the air thick with hostility as they began to scatter, caught in the undeniable truth of her love, but even as the light expanded, Claire felt a flicker of doubt. Was she indeed untangling their fate, or merely replacing one darkness with another? And through the chaos, a voice emerged, deeper and more menacing than before. "You think you can escape this darkness? The truth is far more twisted than you dare to imagine." What awaited Claire in the realm beyond would test her resolve, but she had already chosen her path. Yet, as the shadows receded, a chilling realization swept over her. What if the true darkness was not something outside but something held within her? As Claire plunged deeper into the swirling void, the vibrant light pulsated all around her, blinding yet reassuring. The shadows twisted and churned, violent in their desperation to reclaim her, but she focused on the warmth, the beacon that was Thomas. Memories rushed through her mind, fragments of laughter, moments lost to time, fleeting glances that once felt so eternal. Claire, his voice beckoned through the chaos, filled with urgency and love. The shadows only want to separate us to make you doubt. Then we'll fight together. She shouted, heartbeat racing, as she stretched out her hand toward him. In that moment, it was as if time paused. The luminous essence around them began to solidify, forming a bridge across the tumultuous shadows. Claire took a step forward, feeling the ground firm beneath her feet, courage igniting in her chest. She realized that the darkness thrived on fear of loss, fear of the unknown. Remember why you came here, she whispered to herself, channeling the strength of her love. It coursed through her veins, igniting a fire that lit her path. I refuse to let this darkness win. The shadows shrieked angrily, thrashing around her but losing strength as she pressed on. Each heartbeat reverberated with the truth of their bond. The locket pulsed in her hand, guiding her like a compass toward hope. With every step toward Thomas, the shadows hesitated, shrinking back. I see you, she declared, her voice ringing with confidence. You don't control me. As she neared Thomas, he shimmered brightly, and the roots that entangled him seemed to dissolve, writhing in retreat from her sheer will. That's it, Claire. You're breaking through. He shouted, his eyes wide with awe and pain, but just as hope flickered, the void convulsed. An explosion of darkness erupted, surging toward them like a monstrous wave. Claire gasped, struggling against the overwhelming force. Remember, Claire. Thomas urged, urgency woven with encouragement. What binds us is stronger than what seeks to tear us apart. Drawing strength from their love, she turned her face toward the shadows, refusing to yield. You are just a whisper. She declared fiercely. You don't own me. You don't own him. The light surged higher, illuminating every inch of the clearing, and the oppressive darkness shrieked in a cacophony of frustration. Army of memories, each one a testament to joy, strength, pain, and love, formed an impenetrable barrier against the oncoming tide. Claire's heart surged, the fingers of her other hand reaching out to grasp Thomas's. In that instantaneous moment of connection, a brilliant beam shot forth, exploding in radiant beauty and shredding the tendrils of shadow. The shrieks grew weaker, fading into the echoes of eternity. With a final roar of defiance, the darkness imploded, unraveling like a thread pulled from fabric, leaving only silence in its wake. When the shadows receded, Claire and Thomas stood together under the sprawling oak, the sun filtering through its branches, bathing them in warmth. They were free, untethered from the grasp of despair. I thought I lost you, he breathed, his voice a mixture of relief and love. I thought I lost everything, she replied, tears streaming down her face as the world around them filled with light. But here you are. They embraced tightly, whispering promises into the void that once felt insurmountable. The locket, now glowing softly, lay nestled against her heart, a reminder of the truth they had fought to uncover. Minutes turned into hours as they stood together, feeling the gentle rustle of the breeze, the chirping of the birds awakening after a long night. The past, tangled yet reconciled, did not haunt them anymore. They had stepped into a new dawn, one where choices mattered but didn't enslave. As Claire looked around, the bustling streets of Denver loomed just beyond the park, filled with life, laughter, and stories waiting to be told. They had learned the importance of connection, not just with each other, but with those who surrounded them. Turning to Thomas, smiling through the tears, Claire said, "Let us keep telling our story. Let us keep sharing the truth." They held hands, the world opening before them, a canvas of endless possibilities. And as they walked away from the shadows, the sunlight gleamed, promising a brighter future. Now, as you reach the end of this gripping tale, it's your moment to act. You need to subscribe now so you never miss a heartbeat of these exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button to show your support and feed the algorithm so others can find this journey too. Flood the comments with your reactions, theories, and thoughts on this conclusion. We want to hear from you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative ending. Your voice matters, so be part of this community and let us keep this magical storytelling alive together.